Hello, children! Welcome to the fantabulous world of Extra Tug, full of educational and children-friendly content. That's definitely what this is, so come on in. It's only $4 a month, and it's a lot of fun perks. Chris, why would you put that on the screen? You're ruining it. You're ruining it for everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, my hair is a mess. My sensitive eczema on sensitive parts of my body is back. I'm wearing a Magic the Gathering t-shirt. I'm at the lowest of my lows, so today we're talking about brain rot. And I do that knowing full well I'm gonna sound out of touch. I'm gonna sound like a boomer. I mean, like, I'm a little too old to even say the word brain rot. I'm 28. Cool. But I guess that makes me an all the way grown-ass man now because complaining about youth culture is basically a rite of passage. The kids freak out the adults. That's how it's always been. You imagine seeing a boy roll up on a pogo stick in 1943 or whenever they invented the pogo stick. That would terrify the shit out of me. Even back in the 4th century BCE, Socrates was bitching about kids. This is an actual quote from Socrates. I don't know how legitimate a quote from Socrates can be. The man did write a lot of stuff down, but who knows, history's weird. But apparently he said, children are now tyrants, not the servants of their households. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up dainties at the table, cross their legs, and tyrannize their teachers. Listen, brother, children use their phones in the classrooms now. I don't know what gobbling up dainties is, though. Sounds like they're eating puh. But overall, the older you get, the weirder the kids seem. That's just science. Any adult who still acts like they're hip and with it is 100% a narc or even worse. You ever see a dude who's got like gray hair still trying to look like he's wearing streetwear clothes, like wearing Supreme? Brother, buy a polo and some golf clubs. It's over. So it's normal to shake your head at kids these days, but pretending that your childhood wasn't full of batshit insane kid stuff too is just naive. Every generation has some nonsense that catches on with the children. Beavis and Butthead had kids across the country saying, "I'm the great corn Julio." And early internet memes like drinking out of cups had my generation say, "Who paid for that floor? I didn't pay for that floor." You guys should go watch Drinking Out of Cups. It probably isn't funny at all, but it made me cry laughing when I was a kid. That's just it. Childhood is based on whimsical nonsense. But the internet's algorithm era has raised the stakes of content. Websites and social media platforms are hijacking our dopamine receptors and making us scrolling addicts to the point where it's fair to ask if the last decade of kids' online content, from Elsagate on, has ushered in a dangerous new type of whimsy. One that might actually rot our brains. We're talking about brain rot today. I said that at the beginning, but I feel like we lost the plot a little bit there in the middle, so I'm bringing it back. All right, go on. Start the video. The concept of brain rot has been around for an actually pretty long time. The term originated in 1854 in Henry David Thoreau's collection of essays, Walden. That's right, guys. It's the classic big tug move of bringing in the transcendentalists into the conversation. Can I ever change? Thoreau complained that culture was devaluing complex ideas, essentially amounting to anti-intellectualism. And just a little fun fact here, Thoreau, who often celebrated as an isolated intellectual roughing it in nature, had his mom do his laundry while bringing him food while roughing it. So you know, it's all kind of easy to bullshit at the end of the day. Just lie about who you are and write things down. But over 170 years later, the term brain rot, while still rooted in concerns over intellect, is now focused on the deterioration of a person's mental state due to an overconsumption of unchallenging online content. The more Gen Z and Gen Alpha memes began to hit the mainstream online, the more brain rot was written about in the mainstream press. Between 2023 and 2024, the term brain rot just blew up. It was over 200% usage, which led to the Oxford University Press to name it their 2024 Word of the Year. Casper Grathwohl, what the f*** is that name? Grathwohl? Casper Grathwohl, the president of Oxford Languages, said it demonstrates a somewhat cheeky self-awareness in the younger generations about the harmful impact of social media that they've inherited. How fun! We all know we're dying slowly. And to say that social media harms kids is a wild understatement. Anyone who's objective about the current tech and mental health landscapes is beginning to see the dire results that the internet and social media have on children. Of course, you and I don't like to talk about these things because they're uncomfy. I don't want to know about how kids can't read anymore because of the internet. That's sad and boring. No thanks. And also, we're all complicit in it, which makes us even more uncomfortable because over half of all middle school children have a phone. That's not good. They can look at porn on that thing. We've basically turned a generation of children into guinea pigs, testing the effects of the internet on their underdeveloped minds. But thankfully, big tech is going to be the hero that saves us all because they are really concerned about what's happening to children. Let me check my notes real quick. Oh wait, no, they're not doing that. They're not doing that at all. Big tech is fighting so hard against any sort of regulation. They spend millions lobbying Congress annually. In the same time, there's been a 10% increase in teens reporting feeling of sadness or hopelessness, so it's hard not to think that there might be some kind of connection here. And you can just go ahead and throw that on the pile of study after study about how short-form content consumption lowers attention spans, diminishes impulse control, and poor academic performance. Now, did I start my whole career and am I still doing a lot of short-form content? I'm really good at it, gang. I don't know what to tell you. I can really get the yucks by making a short, so... Oh man, I'm part of the problem, aren't I? But many kids are exposed to screens at an early age, often unsupervised for hours at a time. And YouTube, TikTok, and many other social media platforms use a little thing called black box algorithms. When they stumble upon something they like on a platform like YouTube, the algorithm notices and then optimizes itself to continue feeding them the same kind of content. Now, despite YouTube's filters that supposedly protect kids, researchers have found that YouTube's own suggested videos can lead to increasingly extreme videos, many that violate the platform's own policies. Meaning, you're not allowed to see how this algorithm works. You can't see how they take data and use it to make little kids' brains explode. This makes it even harder for parents and regulators to find out just why their children are watching videos of people's heads exploding. And that's a real thing that happens sometimes. It's fun. I did it when I was a kid. We all watched torture videos of ISIS when we were children, right? You'd show up to first period and the kid would hand you a phone and you'd be like, oh, that changed my life. And you'd hand the phone back. And then you'd have to study math. But one thing we do know is that according to YouTube CEO Neil Mohan, up to 70% of the videos viewed on the site are suggested by the algorithm. The platform basically controls what we see. And it's so cool that you found me, Big Tug, using one of those great algorithms. I can't remember the name of the CEO that I just mentioned, but please don't affect my video for talking shit, dude. Please, God, I need this so bad. In the early 2000s, even before YouTube launched, communities of creators were making videos. Remember Fred? Remember Live Lava Live? That second one's a little bit more of a deep cut, but it made my childhood. I might be looking at this through rose-tinted glasses, but this was before algorithms and commodified content turned the internet into a race to the bottom. Instead, you had artists embracing remix culture, almost like a digital version of hip-hop sampling, and that made me sound so white, but I do love a good hip-hop sample. Creators made absurd video mashups and collages that definitely helped spawn the internet we know today. And while I'm talking about these videos in a somewhat reverent tone, it's important to note that these were dumb as shit. Dumb as hell these videos were. One of the bigger communities that you might know even today was known as YouTube Poop. YouTube poop. Please tell me you know what YouTube poop is. That's gonna kill me if kids don't know what that is anymore. Even during the golden age of the internet, it was stupid. YouTube poops were known for mixing popular cartoons and video game characters while utilizing rudimentary editing techniques and distorted sound to create subversive and at times hard to watch videos. In a sense, they were the spiritual predecessors to deep fried memes that would come years later. Some people actually compared YouTube poops to high art, and there are parallels to be made between poops and Andy Warhol. Richard Nixon's presidential campaign attack ads, and even early MTV promo videos. It's about the youth culture, except for that Richard Nixon thing. But while calling anything art is subjective, it's clear that Poop succeeded for two reasons. They extremely lowered the barrier for entry for creators, while using familiar intellectual property to attract viewers. And I don't know anything about that last little tidbit. Chris, put a picture of Mickey Mouse on the screen. Get the viewers jazzed. Thank you. If you can't tell, this is pretty much the juice of the internet, the secret of content creation. Most online memes and trends borrow imagery and pile on layers of irony. It's a winning formula that's easy to reproduce, one that uses irony to tap into the nostalgia of its adult audience. But that same strategy is pretty goddamn nefarious when you apply it to children's content. Just 2 years after YouTube launched, it was already offering monetization for creators. That is, unless you get demonetized for making an almost hour-long video about the Cold War because you mentioned how the government manipulates citizens. That made me so fun. I put so much effort into that video. Making money online, especially through a site like YouTube, became the 21st century's version of the gold rush. Everyone was trying to stake their claim and make it rich. Philip DeFranco? Remember, SourceFed? That shit was dope, and he couldn't do it. I don't know what happened. This led to high volume uploading by content farms, leaving kids on the platform super vulnerable to being spoon-fed pure trash. And surprise, surprise, turns out there were dozens of companies exploiting the algorithm to f up kids. Around the mid-2010s, the Elsagate controversy came to light. It was found that many videos labeled as kid-friendly on YouTube were actually full of bizarre content that was violent and inappropriate for children. Kids were drawn to these videos because they contained characters that the kids recognized and also super duper loved. Like Elsa from Frozen, Spider-Man, one of the damn dogs from Paw Patrol. And to a certain extent, it was the video's use of these characters that helped them get through the YouTube censors, even though they depict disturbing situations and violence. Videos show Elsa's butt growing to a gigantic size, her skirt getting cut short by a leering joker, and some even depicted her in underwear. And by churning out as many cheaply made videos like this as possible, these content farms became extremely, upsettingly popular. One channel, Toys and Funny Kids Surprise Eggs, what a name, had more than 5 billion views, and was one of the 100 most watched YouTube channels in the world. In 2017, only due to extreme negative press, YouTube deleted a ton of Elsagate videos. The company said that they deleted 270 accounts and removed over 150,000 videos, and removed ads from nearly 2 million videos and over 50,000 channels masquerading as family-friendly content. Which on one hand, glad they did that. On the other hand, holy shit, seemed like a lot of bad things were getting through the algorithm. And honestly, it still is today. Check out a channel called Levento Tunes. They have 1.3 million subscribers and tens of millions of views for AI-generated shorts where a sexy cat and a little kitten are running from a zombie apocalypse, and the dad cat has to fire a pistol to keep the zombies back? Clearly, the algorithm is still responding well to videos that target children while kind of up their brains. Elsagate perfected a blueprint for creators to monetize weird and confusing kid-adjacent content. Even though we can't exactly see what goes into these black box algorithms, we do know that kids love weird shit. We can see that clearly now that the rain has gone. And platforms see engagement as strictly positive, so they give them even weirder stuff. It's a feedback loop that often doesn't have any adults involved to say, hey, maybe a whole series based around an evil toilet with the military artillery is probably not the best move. That's right, I'm talking about Skibidi Toilet. That's as brainrot as it f***ing gets. We couldn't not mention it in this video. Shockingly though, I don't think it's even relevant anymore. That was so big like 3 years ago. Maybe longer. Time has been moving pretty fast since the pandemic. The series started as short, semi-connected videos featuring a head emerging from a toilet. And while it remained dialogue-free, it evolved into a complex, episodic battles with deep lore. In a nutshell, the invasive toilet species show up and try and take over a society, and men with cameras for heads try to destroy them. Which is, you know, a very basic plot. And if that sounds like something out of a nightmare, that's because it is. Creator Alexei Gerasimov first came up with the idea after having recurring dreams about these toilet heads. He found the visions terrifying until Jesus approached him in one of his dreams. According to the creator, Jesus whispered in his ear, "The world is blessed with Skibidi Toilet." So I don't think that story's real at all. Just like YouTube poop and Elsagate, Skibidi Toilet came from familiar source material. Anyone from my generation would know just by looking at it, but if you don't, this was created with Garry's Mod, the same 3D computer graphic software behind Team Fortress, Left 4 Dead, and Half-Life 2.
No! That is nuts!
Garry's Mod? It's Source Filmmaker. We can tell because of the full motion animation as opposed to the stop motion animation that we might see in other Garry's Mod videos. And just like Garry's Mod borrows assets from other Source Engine games, Source Filmmaker borrows other assets including the maps or 3D environments from Garry's Mod. That's another win for fans of remix culture. Where my mixers at? If you edit for a living, God help your soul.
And while these games might be more in line with millennial audiences, it captured the attention of a younger audience who were comfortable in the uniquely online ethos of a sandbox game mod. And like its online ancestors, it was weird as hell. It followed the familiar pattern of online video trends to perfection. Simple and familiar visuals with escalation. With billions of views across platforms and millions of followers, of course, the big companies got involved, creating merchandise and even greenlighting a Skibidi Toilet movie. That's, well, I thought that the Five Nights at Freddy's and the Minecraft movie were gonna fail, so who knows. Skibidi Toilet wasn't just a Gen Alpha phenomenon. Because of its popularity and absurdity, it became many adults' first reference for Brainrot, thanks in part for the word Skibidi becoming a part of Gen Alpha slang. And to this day, I don't think anyone knows what Skibidi means, but I think that's the part of the joke. And I might take this as an opportunity to just run through some Brainrot slang, because I feel like we're all a little out of the loop if you're over the age of 20, even? I don't know. As a society, we tend to fear what we don't understand, so maybe shining a light on these terms will help bring some unity to our generational divide. Or maybe not, because we're gonna talk about Skibidi, and Skibidi is just madness, personified into a word. What does it mean? Like I said, pretty much nothing. It's a stand-in for cool, bad, weird, pretty much anything you want it to stand in for. So at the risk of sounding way too old, what are we doing? What are we doing here? The word is inspired by a toilet and means nothing. So we're off to a great start. What's next? Giga Chad. So the root word here is Chad, which has come to represent a stereotypically attractive and confident man. The prefix giga means very, so it's a very confident and sexually attractive man. This is usually reserved to make fun of toxic male behaviors or the grind set stereotype. Visually, Giga Chads are represented by the same insane image of an overly strong-jawed buff guy, which most people assume was AI generated. However, the original Giga Chad is a real goddamn person. A Russian bodybuilder and model named Ernest Kalalimov. But just incredible that this person actually exists. I hope those pictures are edited. No way he has a chin like that. I gotta get back in the bubble. Chungus. Chungus is usually something large and plump and adorable, like an animal. Basically, a chungus for the millennials is a chonk. Like a chonky boy, that's how you, like a Shiba Inu. I don't know, I'm trying to apply it to millennial humor. You'd call a chubby cat a chungus, but also it started as Big Chungus, which was that picture of Bugs Bunny being fat. I don't know, guys. This is kind of slipping away from me. Sigma is the most perplexing one to me of Gen Z alpha brain rot slang. Sigma is the 18th letter of the Greek alphabet, but the way it's used today absolutely has nothing to do with that. The term took off in the 2010s as a way to describe a man who was even more alpha than an alpha. A lone wolf that cannot be governed. A woo. Chris, do not, oh my God. That wasn't even in the script. You know, Chris, you're looking at the script. I just did that. And from there, the term spread organically. And now, despite some of the most toxic voices you might encounter, it's generally a term used ironically. Which, to be fair, every single one of these terms are all used ironically. It's Gen Alpha. They live themselves surrounded in a cocoon of irony so that they may never show a real emotion for the rest of their lives. And last but not least is Ohio. Honestly, you guys. This is dog shit. It really is. I'm the old man yelling at clouds. And it doesn't stop there. I thought we were done with brain rot. Now we have Italian brain rot, which is like all those characters. Have you guys seen this? People were using AI to make like animal object hybrids that would speak in Italian gibberish, because I guess they didn't know how to actually speak Italian, so it's just creatures that kind of speak Italian, but not really. You had Chimpanzini Bananini, a green chimp inside of a half-peeled banana. Ballerina Cappuccina is pretty much exactly what you think it is. It's a cappuccino and a ballerina. Then you had Tralalero Tralala, which I guess is a shark wearing Air Jordans. Bombardino Crocodillo is a half crocodile, half bomber plane. It's absolutely the product of trolls. So what do you think, Tuglets? What do you think about all this dog shit? I don't know. Am I an old man for thinking brain rot is such a big deal? I mean, after all, it has been around for centuries. But with the advent of the internet, content is now produced and spread at a rate unfathomable even 20 years ago. Creators who hijack platforms by tricking audiences into a sense of security seem pretty sketchy from the jump, and the fact that they slowly turn up the intensity of the experience to keep audiences hooked is downright evil villain shit. And the most vulnerable audience to this tactic is children, which leaves them at the mercy of dumbass algorithms. And the result is a feedback loop of creepy content that makes people money while potentially ruining our happiness and attention spans. There you go. Are we all happy? I feel dumber after this video. New videos every Saturday and sometimes Wednesday. Like, comment, and subscribe. Shout out the Extra Tuglets. That's a bunch of f***ing... You want to talk about brain rot? Anyone who subscribes to Extra Tug, Jesus Christ, you get 4, maybe 6 videos a month extra for only $4, and you get your name at the end of these videos, and it's a whole lot of hoopla over there. We talk about some weird shit. I dress up as Satan. We just do what I can't do on YouTube over there. It pretty much is the basic of it, because YouTube won't let me talk about the Cold War, so f*** it. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.